You're welcome back to the conversation in New Central Television. Approximately 3.4 million Sierra Leoneans expected to vote in a general election on Saturday, in which incumbent President Julius Maada Bio is seeking a second and final term amid frustrations over economic hardship. President Julius Maada Bio is one of 13 candidates vying for the top office. President Bio called for peaceful elections while traditional street rallies were banned to prevent violence. The opposition has accused the Electoral Commission of bias, raising speculation of a potential court challenge. Internet penetration has increased, making disinformation a concern, and President Bio's focus is on the education of women's rights, while his opponent, Sakura Kamara of the All People's Congress, APC, aims to restore economic confidence. Regional alliances and perceptions of benefits influence voting patterns. Polls predicts Bio's victory, but critics argue a contraction in the civic space. Elections will be held under a new proportional representation system. Now, joining me tonight from Freetown, I have Abdulmalik Bangura, a journalist and public relations expert. I also have Sidi Yaya Tunis, the National Publicity Secretary of the All People's Congress in Sierra Leone, and also Dr. James Matthew, Executive Director, Initiative for Justice, Peace and National Cohesion, all joining from the capital, Freetown. A warm welcome to you, gentlemen, and thanks for joining me on tonight's program. Now,
good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Now, I'd like to start with you, Sidi. How would you describe the campaign period? I heard campaigns came to an end yesterday. After 13 candidates, including your principal, have they addressed the most pressing issues that are at the top of the minds of Sierra Leoneans?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I mean, it is one that I describe as somehow peaceful on one part, and then on another very violent. And I say so because in some parts of the country, largely in the southern and eastern parts of the country, where it is mostly considered the stronghold of the ruling party, it is very, very difficult for us, the opposition party, especially the main opposition, All People's Congress, to campaign, freely and have access to our membership or supporters and the people in those areas for us to be able to really spread our message. Many times we have come under attacks. Our membership and supporters have come under attack in the southern and eastern parts of the country as I speak. Just 2 days ago, our office in the regional headquarters town of the south in Bo, was burnt to the ground, and also several of our members were beaten and some even locked up. The same happened in Pujon, where our principal, the presidential candidate, was attacked by supporters of the ruling party, and also he was tear gassed by the security forces, and that has been the pattern for most of the southern and eastern parts of the country. But then when you come up north, I mean, it is mainly peaceful, and it has been, and same for the western area, where every political party have had free access to campaign without violence or without hindrance, whether the ruling party or opposition party. But to a large extent, even with the violence attacks on our supporters in the south and the east, we have been able to, send our message of hope, a message of economic recovery, a message of job creation, healthcare investment, educational investment to the people through, campaigns in the north and through social media and mainstream media and other means of communication.
Sidi, quickly before I move to your co-panelists on tonight's program, I want to ask you if These complaints of intimidation by the ruling SLPP and the Sierra Leonean security forces, is it just against APC members or other opposition parties? Have they raised this complaints?
Well, we've had some people complain, especially independent candidates, of violence, intimidation in some parts of the country. So
Okay, we seem to be having some connection issues with CD. Yeah, I would like to bring in Abdulmalik Bangura into the conversation. A warm welcome to you, Abdulmalik. My question to you is this. Some opposition parties and also quite a number of politicians and citizens have complained about bias by the Sierra Leone Electoral Commission, the ECSL. Do they have any legitimate claims to make this accusation of bias, and how might this affect the integrity of the upcoming elections? Hello, Abdulmalik, are you there? Okay, I'll try to get back to Sidi. Sidi, can you hear me? Yes, Sidi, I'll let you complete your thoughts before we lost connection with you. You were speaking to the point of if other opposition leaders and parties have complained of intimidation by agents of the state.
Oh, yes. I mean, we have been speaking to other opposition leaders, but we have also had independent candidates that have complained about intimidation and harassments and attacks from the ruling party. But, you know, APC is the main target because we're the only party really that is posing challenge and that is poised to win these elections. If we are to go into elections on a level playing field, and if we are to have an election conducted on free, fair, and credible manner, APC is poised to win, which is why the government wants to make it impossible for us to campaign in the south and the east.
Now, Sidi, I want to take you up on a point you mentioned. You said a level playing ground, and not just the APC has been complaining about the Sierra Leone Electoral Commission. Other parties and politicians have also complained about bias from the Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone, ECSL. What has led to this accusation of bias, and how might they affect the integrity of the upcoming polls?
We had a party like the PMDC that already has a court matter against the chief electoral commissioner. The way he was hired as chief electoral commissioner is against the constitutional provisions. And also some of the things that they have embarked on, such as, you know, the voters register that we have currently that they want to use for the elections are quite presented in a way that goes against the Constitution of Sierra Leone and even their own Elections Act of 2022. And also they are trying to introduce an application for transmitting results that runs contrary to provisions of the law, and an application that was not presented to any political party, one that has not been tested or piloted. And so some of these issues we have with the Electoral Commission itself. And we have had commissioners also taking photos under the portrait of the president, the current president, with their, you know, 5 fingers raised, which is the campaign symbol that the current administration is using to indicate 5 more years of President Julius Maada Bio. You have 5 commissioners in the Electoral Commission take pictures with their 5 fingers raised under the portrait of the president. I mean, all of these acts are clear signs showing the bias of the ECSL, and they are, you know, efforts in trying to manipulate these elections in favor of the current administration.
Now, Sidi Yaya Tunis, about 3.4 million Sierra Leoneans will be heading to the polls this weekend. Let's talk about your principal, Mr. Sakura Kamara. He used to be a former foreign minister of the Republic of Sierra Leone. Does he have what it takes to defeat the incumbent President Julius Maada Bio in the elections? And why should Sierra Leoneans consider him rather than the incumbent that has tried and he's done his first term? At least they can see what he can do as against an untested candidate.
I mean, when you look at our situation in Sierra Leone currently, our economic situation, our deeply divided nation under this current administration, when you look at the lack of respect for the rule of law, for constitutionality, and for democracy, Dr. Sakura Kamara is the most fitted candidate that Sierra Leoneans need at this time to fill in the position of the presidency. And I say this when you look at his qualification, his background as an economist. He has worked as a financial secretary in Sierra Leone. He was brought in 1994 to help revive our economy when it went bankrupt under the NPRC rule, of which President Julius Maada Bio was part of. He was able to revive our economy under that administration. We went into a civil war, our economy collapsed again. He was brought in against as financial secretary under former President Ahmed Tijan Kabah, and Dr. Sakura Kamara helped us stabilize our economy again. And then we came in under democracy. He was there. Under President Ernest Bai Kromah, first as bank governor, and then later Minister of Finance, and then Minister of Foreign Affairs. As Minister of Finance, he was able to revive again our economy, even before the Ebola epidemic, but then first when we had the commodity crisis in the world, and then when the prices of iron ore fell, he was able to and made it one of the Ebola struck in 2014. We were quickly able to over the president's to Maada Bio when our economy was recovered, according to the World Bank and IMF, wherein Dr. Sakura Kamara has not been involved in managing, and we see what has happened. Our economy has crashed to the worst in the history. Inflation stands at over the worst. We have one of the least GDP in the world. I mean, so we need somebody with such expertise, such experience managing the economy and the public sector, like Dr. Sakura as president. He has been foreign minister, he has been finance minister, he has been financial secretary, he has been bank governor of Sierra Leone, he's worked with the World Bank, he's worked with the IMF. So we do not have any candidate that possesses such experience and qualification running for president in Sierra Leone like Dr. Sakura Kamara.
Okay, so you believe his economic prowess and experience gives him an advantage against incumbent President Julius Maada Bio. Now let's look at another issue that has been in the forefront when we look at the upcoming elections in Sierra Leone. It's the first time that Sierra Leone will be trying this new proportional representation system in elections for both President Bio's party and the opposition party. What challenges does this system present? What do you make of this switch to the new proportional representation system?
The switch itself was highly unconstitutional. It was forced on the people of Sierra Leone. It is one of those controversial issues that we dealt with in Parliament that created so much chaos among the members of parliament and the citizenry. We are going into these elections with the citizens having very little knowledge about proportional representation system, very little understanding about the proportional representation system. And also we are going into these elections wherein the ECSL, introduced a formula to arrive at the distribution of seats among districts in a way that did not speak to any of our laws, whether the Electoral Act of 2022 or the 1991 Constitution of Sierra Leone. But in any case, as a political party, we have made frantic effort to ensure that we educate the general public of understanding the proportional representation system and the importance for them to get out and vote so that we can have as many seats as possible to ensure that we are able to win both the House of Parliament, the presidency, and even the councils, so that together they'll be able to help the executive branch of government to deliver on the promises that we have made in our manifesto to the people of Sierra Leone.
Thank you, Sidi. Now I'd like to bring in Dr. Matthew into the conversation. Dr. James Matthew is the Executive Director of Initiative for Justice, Peace and National Cohesion in Sierra Leone. Now, Dr. Matthew, traditionally, elections have always been a two-horse race. In Sierra Leone, we expected it to be the same, and also looking at the voting pattern of past elections since the end of the Civil War, the people have voted along ethnic lines. Do we expect much of the same, or are you expecting a difference?
Yeah, thank you.
We seem to be having audio connections with Dr. Matthew, so I'll just direct that question to Sidi Yaya Tunis. If you want me to repeat the question, I can. I'm not sure if you got my question right, Sidi.
I get it. We are very much aware of that, and that is why our manifesto, we made a nation, one nation, building national cohesion and peace as our number one pillar, because we are very much aware of the fact that our country is deeply divided along tribal, regional, and political lines. And we feel that our development is being skewed because of that. So for a party that is aspiring to ensure sustainable development across the country and across the globe, we have to preach and campaign on a platform of national unity and cohesion. And that is why we named our manifesto One Nation Manifesto, wherein we want to ensure that when we are in power, every Sierra Leonean will have equal opportunity, of contributing to developing the state. And every district will have equal distribution of state resources to ensure sustainable development opportunities in every part of the country. So regardless of which tribe, which region, you will have opportunities. And we are also going to make it a law. We are going to amend the Constitution of Sierra Leone. It is our manifesto promise, so that no one tribe will have more than 25% of staff in any public office across the country. So if you walk into any public office, for example, you will not have more than 25% of Mendes or Timnis or any other tribe. Will ensure equal distribution of tribes in every office.
Yeah. Now, finally, Sidi, before I let you go, what are the conditions that need to be met for a candidate to be declared as president by the Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone, the ECSL? Is there any threshold or certain percentage of votes that a candidate needs to get before he can be declared as winner?
You have to have 55% of the total vote across the country for you to be declared president. If in the first round nobody gets 55%, then the elections will have to go into a runoff between the two candidates that got the highest votes, the first and second highest votes. And then once we go into runoff, any candidates that scores the highest votes will be declared president.
Thank you for that, CD. I would like to try and reach Dr. James Matthew. Again, Dr. Matthew, if you can hear me, what are your expectations from Saturday's elections? Do you expect them to be free and fair and also without violence?
Thank you very much. The Saturday multi-tier elections are expected to be critical. I want to abstain from using the word free and fair because as executive director of the National Center for Human Rights and Development, we have followed the electoral system since 2018 from the removal of 10 parliamentarians from the APC party. It was the time we, from the Initiative for Justice, Peace and National Cohesion, started seeing what we are now seeing today. We knew by then that the government of His Excellency Brigadier Julius Maada Bio has something on their sleeve to ensure that the elections are not in the best interest of the people of this country. And now we have seen it happens today.
And what evidence points to what you just said, Dr. Matthew?
In the electoral system in our country. Yes, come again.
I said, why did you say that the government of President Bio is not working in the best interest of the people of Sierra Leone? What evidence do you have to point to that statement? To back up your statement?
Okay, let me repeat. In 2018, we saw a constitutional breach. We saw a breach of our constitution. We are 10 members from our parliament. We are unconstitutionally removed. And the reason behind that was for the current government of the second part into parliament without going through the use of the law. And that was where we from the Initiative for Justice, Peace and National Cohesion saw the bullets, saw the unconstitutionalities of the parent government coming. And now since then, we saw a number of electoral laws being passed into parliament without going through the due process of the law. And that is why you may ask the evidence I have for making such a statement. The evidence are clear and they are written on the wall. One is the removal of 10 parliamentarians from the APC as to enable the SNPP to pass laws into parliament without going through the due process of the law. That is one clear evidence to show that what we are now experiencing in Sierra Leone, we saw it coming in 2018. And since then, we saw a number of electoral laws passed that were not in the best interest of the people of this country. Now we came to the PR system. The PR system is not a system that the people of Sierra Leone understands. We have 75% of our civil population who cannot read and write. And now bringing a PR system that you don't have the latitude to let the people understand what the PR system is all about. As I'm talking to you, I just came from one of the district headquarter town, which is called Koidu. We asked a lot of people in that part of the country whether they even understand the electoral system, the voting pattern. And most of them inform us that they don't even understand how to vote. So the Saturday elections, as it stands now, we are yet to see a situation where the elections will be credible. As I speak to you, there was a lot of demonstration here in Sierra Leone today in almost the the west-south of the country. People coming out to say, we want the chairperson of the ECSL at the Elections Commission of Sierra Leone to step down. So meaning a lot of people in the country are concerned about the credibility of the electoral process.
Okay, and how did those protests go? Was there any feedback from the government, and are they going to go ahead to use the proportional representation system on Saturday? Is it too late to seek redress?
Yes, it's good for the APC, the All People's Congress Party, to seek redress. They have gone on the street. We have seen demonstrations. We have seen press releases from their political party explaining to the international community, raising up their concerns. We have seen meetings for the past few days, meetings being held between executive members of the APC and executive members of the ECSL and even the international community. The concerns the APC have raised, and one key concern is for the ECS, that is the Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone, to come out with a data that clearly explains how many police stations do we have in this country, how many people we are registered, and how many people do we have been registered, accredited to vote on Saturday in every police station. That data is not out yet. So we are going to the polls with an understanding that a large number of the people in this country are a little bit concerned about the credibility of the elections.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. James Matthew. And also, I'd like to do a big thank you to CD Yaya Tunis, National Publicity Secretary, All People's Congress, APC, and Dr. James Matthew, Executive Director, Initiative for Justice, Peace and National Cohesion, all joining from Freetown in Sierra Leone to discuss the upcoming general elections and parliamentary elections this Saturday. It's been a pleasure talking to you. We do appreciate your contribution and your time. Coming up on the conversation, Tinubu dissolves boards of all federal government parastatals and exempts the National Agency for Food, Drug Administration and Control, and also the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA. Will be looking at reasons behind this exemption and also the implications. Do stay with us. We'll be right back after this quick timeout.